In this video, I'm going to show you my process for creating a brand new acrylic painting. And I'm also going to share with you why I actually find it really difficult coming up with new and interesting ideas of what to paint.
Every idea starts with a spark. You could use that spark to start something incredible, or it can fizzle away into nothing. It's the same for creating artwork. That initial spark can happen at any moment.
Usually, it's as I'm falling asleep, just as my head hits the pillow. I'll toss and I'll turn and I'll try and get back to sleep, but I've just got too many thoughts running through my head. I actually sleep with a notepad next to my bed for moments just like these when I can't sleep. Then, once that idea is locked in and in somewhere solid, I can finally let my mind rest and fall back to sleep.
Lol, joke, because I still can't sleep and I've still got that idea going through my head.
Sometimes I just get consumed by that spark of an idea. It consumes me just like a fire consumes everything it touches. Writing it down just isn't enough. I have to make it real. Sometimes that's rough sketches with pencil, other times it's using my iPad to create more detailed and more refined studies. And that's exactly what I did with this one. I used my iPad to mock up the drawing. First, simple shapes, then more refined line work. The value thoughts come next. And then finally, the colour. And with my idea imagined and visualised, I can finally rest.
It's a brand new day and I cannot wait to get started. I've got this fresh idea that I just cannot wait to turn into a painting. So you've seen me make this, which was my initial idea. I'm happy with it, but it's not enough to work from just yet. I need to create a more refined mock-up using reference photos. And this whole process usually involves using my iPad and piecing together lots of different photos and doing some digital drawing as well to create a unified reference, basically. So here's the original idea, and here's the mock-up that I created from that idea. And you can see they're a little bit different. And the reason for that is because I wanted to unify everything a little bit more, and I also wanted to change the vibe of the painting. Instead of a vast landscape with that lone American elk, I wanted something with a little bit more narrative and a little bit closer to home. So not only did I switch up the location, I also switched up the subject as well. Something that I can use my own experiences and what I've seen myself to help create. Which is why instead of the elk, we've got 2 red deer in the British countryside. Ideas come a lot, and if I don't pursue an idea straight away, a new one just comes in and replaces it, and I just lose excitement for that initial idea. So I need to get painting as soon as possible. And for this one, I've got my eye on quite a big canvas. Very big. And in order for me to see that this painting is going to work on this large scale, I'm going to have to do a smaller version of it to check everything's right. So instead of jumping straight onto this massive canvas, first I'm going to do something on this one. My plan is to do the final big painting with oil paints, but because I've not used acrylic paints for a while, I thought I'd use those to create this small one.
I've got a set of colours that I usually use for my paintings, but I'm going to start by limiting myself to only a few of these. I want to try and create quite a warm, harmonious colour palette, so I don't want to overwhelm myself with lots and lots of different colours. And because I want quite a warm painting, I'm starting with a burnt sienna wash that I'm going to cover the entire canvas with, so that some of that warm burnt sienna will actually show through in the finished painting. Plus, it helps to remove that intimidating bare white canvas, and makes it easier to judge values. Once that wash is done, I move on to refining the line work, and this is a really important step. I use a round brush and I just draw out all of the shapes of the piece. I'm not really focusing on details, but I am focusing on those big geometric shapes and making sure they're all in the right place and they all work well together. I really do take my time with this. I don't rush it because I think it's really important to have that solid foundation and that idea visibly in front of you. I'm just using some burnt umber paint and just thinning it down with a little bit of water to help it flow on the canvas. I won't think about anything else until I'm 100% happy with this sketch stage of the process. The next stage is to start thinking about the colours. And I'm not just going to jump in with super thick paint when I don't really have an exact idea of what I want this painting to look like just yet. So what I'm going to do is, just using very thinned down paint again, I'm just going to start adding some washes of colour. The colour that I think should go there, but I'm not putting super thick impasto marks down, so it's dead easy to change it if I decide I don't like that colour later down the line. Again, just like doing that initial sketch and that initial underpainting, this colour wash is an essential part of my process. It helps me visualise things really quickly and sets me up for success later on in the painting. By doing this quick wash and getting paint and colours all over the canvas, I can see how well they all interact with each other, which helps me understand the flow of the painting a little bit more. I can see if I need to make things warmer or cooler or lighter or darker really early on. I'm just building up this painting one step at a time and making decisions as I go. I'm not just basing every choice from that initial reference photo that I made. I'm seeing how the painting develops and adjusting my process as and when I need it as I progress through the painting. Okay, now it's time for the good stuff. This is where I can really get stuck into that painting process. I'm starting to get much thicker, less watered down paint, we're building up that saturation, we're building up that contrast, and we're starting to get stuck into the details. This is where the painting really comes to life. For this one, I wanted to pre-mix some of my colours, so I mixed them on my palette and then used them throughout the painting. However, one really important note to mention is that life and reality is full of lots of varied colours. If you pre-mix your colours and just stick to those colours, you're gonna get sort of not boring paintings and not bad paintings, but they could be better. That variation in colour that you get from barely mixing your colours or adding variation to those colours as you're mixing them is a good thing. All of your colours do not need to be the same all the time. The different oranges, the different blues, the different greens that you can make and then add throughout your painting, just elevate it and make it look even more realistic. And that's something that I've just learned and just started doing in my work, and I cannot tell you how much of an impact it's having. When I turn this into a big painting, I will be pre-mixing some of my colours, but then I'll be using those pre-mixes with colours straight out of the tube and adjusting them and altering them pretty much every time my brush goes back to that palette. I just want as many different variations of colours within my painting as possible. I want to add as much interest to that painting as possible and make it as captivating as possible. I might be getting a little bit ahead of myself because I'm nowhere near creating that big painting yet, but I'm just so excited to get the oil paints out and make a start on that massive canvas. However, I do still have a long way to go, and I need to keep reminding myself to stop, slow down, take your time, and make sure you understand exactly what it is you're painting. The reason that I am starting to do more of these studies, more of these sketches, rather than just copying a photo, is because I want to put more of myself in the paintings. And I have to actually do all these sketches, and do all these studies, and do all these mini paintings, because I can't physically visualise my ideas in my head. When I visualise a painting idea, all I see is black. I have to physically get my thoughts onto paper and paint them to actually be able to visualize them and see them. I don't know if you've ever had anyone say like, oh, picture a ball on a table, or like when you're going to sleep, people say they like count sheep. Well, I never understood that, because whenever I tried doing that, it was just a blank vision in my brain, and I was just adding, which did not send me to sleep at all. I've done a little bit of research into this, and apparently some people can actually visualize images in their head. When they think of something, they see it, and I just don't have that ability. If I've done something before, I can remember the motion, and I can understand the logic of, last time I did this, this happened and it was effective, so I can do it again. But I can't actually physically visualize how that works in my brain. I have to actually do it to be able to see it. It's like I've built up the ability to draw things from memory, not because I can visualize in my brain what I want to try and draw, but because there's logical steps to follow. There's a process of how long this part needs to be relative to this part, and you do this bit first and then this bit second, and then it all comes together. When I'm creating a painting and creating these sketches, it's based on muscle memory and not from this like magical thought or vision that I have in my brain. Like, sure, I can just copy a photograph because that photograph is already there, it's been made. And yes, I can piece together these reference images and try to create something new, but it takes hours and hours and hours because I don't know what image is going to work. I don't know what scene is going to work with a particular shape or picture or subject, and I have to try lots and lots and lots of different versions of that to get to the right one. And even then, I don't get it right all the time. Which is why I then move on to doing the actual physical painting studies, because then I can actually physically do it, I can then learn from those painting studies, I can lock in that information in my muscle memory, so that when it comes to painting a new one, if I need to make any changes, I've got that muscle memory, I've done it before, and I can remember what worked and what didn't, and I can make those adjustments to the final painting much easier than if I didn't do any of these studies at all. So if you're struggling to come up with ideas and you are thinking that people just suddenly miraculously can see these visions of amazing paintings in their brain and then they paint it, that's not what happens. Or at least not in my case. I do have to do a lot of work, and there's a lot of preliminary work before we even get to the actual painting stage that I need to do before I'm even close to understanding what it is that I actually want to paint. It's a slow, time-consuming process, but I'm hoping it's going to be worth it when I actually get out the big canvas and create that huge final painting. So in my hand, I have got the finished painting, and I am really, really happy with how it's turned out. Here it is. Have a good look at that. I think it's probably, in fact not probably, it's definitely the best colour study that I've ever done. It's better than my normal colour studies.
But there's still quite a bit that I want to change about this when I do the big painting. So it's going to actually look like a completely brand new piece. But you're going to have to wait until the next video to see how that turns out. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.